Okay, we're back again in the shop. This time, one more time with the AJS. We should be able to complete this little series of videos this time. So here we go. That bike does wet some. I mean, it's okay if you've just left it for a couple of days. But if you leave it for a week and you go to start it up, it does kind of smoke like a freight train until you get the crankcase pumped out. So I made this little valve up. Oh Lord, how long ago was that? Must be 5 or 6 years ago. Anyway, as you can see, it's got a little micro switch here screwed to the side of it. And that micro switch will make contact as soon as, it's hard to do this with one hand. Where am I going? There you go. As soon as that valve is not fully open, that little micro switch will just close the circuit there and kill the ignition. So this way you can't start the bike up the way I plan on wiring this up. You can't start the bike up if the valve is not open. So you don't need to worry too much about making the very, very critical mistake of not opening your oil before you ride. So and if it happened to shut or vibrate shut somehow or other during a ride, it would just shut the engine down before it actually blocked off the valve. So I think I'm going to fit that into the suction line to the main pressure side of the pump there, and that way when I'm not using the bike, I can just shut that off, and I know that it won't wet some. That's what I made it for. Well, okay, after that highly successful test ride, and looking at this valve here, it's time to figure out where I want to put it. And this is the main suction line from the oil tank. This is the return line that goes back up through that filter that lives in here. So I need to put it in the suction line right here. So just got to figure out where would be the very best spot to cut that hose and slip that valve in there. Down further would be too close to the bend in the hose, and up further would be too close to the spot where it joins up. So I think right about, if I go right in line with that grease nipple and cut that right there, that should be a pretty good spot to put that valve in there. So let me see what I can do with that knife. Time to do some damage. All right, well, that whole job only took about an hour. I cut about 1.5 inches of hose, first an inch and then another 1/2 inch after that, out of the suction hose, so I had room to get the valve in there. Then I soldered the, I don't know if you can see that in there, but there's 2 little connections on the back of that switch. Push that wire out of the way for a second so you can see it. Anyway, soldered that in place. That's in the same line that went up to the kill switch on the handlebars, which is no longer there. The kill switch was originally placed there so I could shut the bike off when it was magneto ignition. However, it was redundant after that, and so I hooked a kill switch wire, which comes off this bolt right here on the distributor that goes to the condenser, which goes to the points. Anyway, it kills the ignition, grounds it. So I go to a ground up under that little bolt right there under the ignition switch. You can just see the wire kind of sticking out behind everything. But I double checked it. You can even see it if you listen really close. You might even be able to hear the little tick when that micro switch closes. Just try to listen, see if you do. I can just hear it right about there. Yeah, you hear that little click. Anyway, I don't know if the camera picked that up or not, but That valve, by the way, is still open there. There's still flow going through it, quite a bit of flow actually. But that will shut your engine off if that valve is not fully open like that right there. So anyhow, that's a bit of security knowing that that actually works. I did check the, here's, head spark plug wrench here. Took the plugs out, checked it 3 or 4 times to make sure that the switch actually does work. I'm still going to do that little trick that I've always done with the ES2 where that has an oil shut-off valve. I'm going to pull the spark plugs out when the bike is not in use. That way, if the plugs aren't in, that's reminding me that I have to open that valve. But anyway, that will prevent wet sumping anyway. And I was looking up around the cylinder head underneath those valve covers after that drive, and there's no leaks underneath those valve covers with that good old 3-bond underneath there sealing everything up. So anyway, I'm just going to give this thing a real good cleanup, and anyway, she's ready for the road. Oh, by the way, one of the guys had asked if I wouldn't mind showing a few more of my paintings and that sort of thing. Well, I'm not painting anything at the moment, but I will show you a little picture of one I completed last year. It's one of the trails that I like to walk on along the coast here. But that's my work. I didn't want to buy, spend $40 on a set of vinyl stickers, so I just painted them on. I'm pretty happy with those. That's that one-shot sign painter's enamel that you use for pinstriping and that sort of thing. So yeah, I was pretty pleased with the way that came out. I actually had that logo painted on the toolboxes as well, but it just looked like just kind of too much, so I wiped it off before the paint dried and just left the side covers plain like that, or not the side covers, the toolboxes plain like that. So anyway, I think we'll get this out for a ride after we clean it up. Maybe I'll try to devise a way that I can fasten this camera onto the front of my jacket and take you along with me. Well, trying to rig the camera to the front of my jacket, that didn't work out so well, but I'm down here in Prospect Village out on a ride. I did put a slightly smaller main jet in it because it seemed to be loading up a bit at high throttle openings. So I went from 180 down to 150, and it's a huge improvement as far as that goes. So anyways, I'll carry on my little ride and see how that goes. I'm back from that little ride. Everything worked perfectly. The spark plugs are even looking a prettier color now than they did before, so I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to call that ready to roll for 2025. I think it's going to be a good season on this bike this year. So thanks for watching. You be good to each other, and we'll see you in the next one.